In a 13-day crisis over Temple Mount, or Haram al-Sharif, in Jerusalem. A deal was brokered between Israel and Jordan, but as we've been hearing here, it is certainly not over. Uzi Arad is here with us. He's former national security advisor to the Israeli prime minister, along with former Palestinian minister Ashraf al-Ajrami. Before the break, Ashraf, you were talking us through the deal between Israel and Jordan, which left the Palestinians out. That seems to be a reason why the Palestinian government is choosing to escalate. What's your take? What's your reaction to what you heard?
As far as Jordan is concerned, Jordan has a formal position when it comes to Jerusalem as a derivative of the peace treaty with Jordan. But clearly, Jordan does not monopolize the issue. Clearly, the Palestinians have a status within that. But with the Palestinians and with the Palestinian Authority, we've had ongoing contacts throughout, at various levels, the coordinator of the affairs, of the security channels. And had there been any desire to discuss the matter, including of Jerusalem, and how to restore tranquility there, it could have been handled there, even the possibility of doing something more. But instead, what happened was that Mr. Abbas decided to sever those contacts. So in a way, this is a disruption of an existing channel that had been functionally effective, and that also something that ought to be restored. If you want to have a secure condition, that should be restored, and I'm hopeful that it will. But I do agree that sooner or later one should not leave unattended the issue of Jerusalem, and the closer we get to a resumption of negotiations, the better.
Ashraf, if we're looking at Abbas cutting off communications, that was Sunday, I believe, that the Palestinian president cut off ties with Israel amid this crisis. That is still the case. What is playing into his decision to keep those ties severed?
No, before that, I return back to the connection between the two sides. The Israeli government decided not to deal with this issue, with Jerusalem issue, with the Palestinian Authority, even when there is a coordination, security coordination between the two sides. He cut it off
before the deal, right?
Even if there is a coordination, they don't deal with this issue. The Israeli government don't involve the Palestinian leadership or the Palestinian security services of anything related to East Jerusalem, because they decided that it is our own capital and there is nothing to do with the Palestinians. And because of that, there is a problem. And I think that the Israeli government, if they started some kind of negotiation or maybe connection between Israeli government and Jordan and the Palestinian Authority about how to deal with the security issue, they can find a solution without seeing that Israel wants to change the status quo in East Jerusalem.
Let me confirm what he's been saying. You should see that. Even look at the division of labor within the Israeli security machinery. You will see that when it comes to Jerusalem, it is the Israeli police and the Israeli security forces that have the say, not the military. The military are not involved in Jerusalem. That reflects the attitude that Jerusalem is treated as if it is an internal Israeli issue, not something. And this complicates matters for us as well. But inevitably, when one will see a return to the full agenda of the outstanding issues on the negotiating plate, Jerusalem is there. And I am hopeful that when this is over, two things will happen. First, a sense of responsibility would prevail so as not to use this inflammatory issue, to use it for violence. It's a pity, and people are losing their lives on this, such an explosive issue. And second, that we do have a resumed peace process. Until such time, we would have all those issues buried under the carpet, and they will resurface again and again.
Has this reality that we've seen over 13 days been a reality check for Washington or for this region, that the Palestinians, that the Israelis, that other countries around it that have gotten very involved, including Turkey and Jordan, are not ready for an actual peace process?
Or the opposite. If you may draw a conclusion about a future resumed peace process, and if you do it in a regional context in which involves Jordan and even the other countries, some may suggest that the order of priority be reversed, and the issue for Jerusalem, rather than be left to the end, will be brought forward. And that's an interesting leap. Whether it is politically doable, I don't know. But it might occur.
Traditionally shelved.
Yes.
I want to pause this for just a moment and jump to Turkey, because our Laura Wells is joining us from there. Turkey is one of those countries and one of the leaders that has gotten very involved in this crisis throughout. President Tayyip Erdogan just saying today, again, Israel is damaging the Islamic character of Jerusalem, and that's after the metal detectors came down. Laura, how is this a sort of long-term involvement we can expect from Turkey?
I think it is. If you look at President Erdogan, he's the largest supporter of Hamas, aside from Qatar, traditionally, in the world. So, yes, he also sees himself as the leader of the Muslim world, or at least an aspiring one. So he is going to speak harshly about Israel, as he has done for years. He believes this is popular rhetoric around the Muslim world, and I believe he's also very committed to this. What he is saying is not necessarily idle chatted. He has some level of conviction, but it's also politically popular for him.
All right, Laura, thank you. Ashraf, I want to let you continue that thought. If we're talking regional deal, if we're talking countries like Turkey and Jordan, so many people weighing in. At a moment like this, do you think that who will be driving the Palestinian side to say we escalate or we sit down to talk? Who's in control?
On the Palestinian side, it is somehow difficult because the Palestinian leadership nowadays lost the control of the youth, the Palestinian youth, and the problem also that the regional aspect isn't strong enough to also to affect the situation. And I return back to the American administration. The problem here with the American administration, which wants to be different from the Obama administration, but until this moment, it didn't find its way to act or to moderate between the two sides. And until this moment, they didn't act really. I think if it was the Obama administration, it would act in a very strong way to bring the two sides to have to calm down the situation.
About 11 days to get involved. Uzi, in the little time we have left, a big question. What now? We see a crisis that really exposes a reality here. How do you maintain security without inflaming the region? What's your advice to Jason Greenblatt, for example?
Well, to the extent that this is possible, and it may be very difficult for the American administration, as Ashraf just described, but if they were able to bolster their position, they should take perhaps the initiative of defining a new beginning, a new negotiating process, because the absence of a negotiating process is creating a permanent freeze, a status quo which is negative. So we need to have some traction. They may pull it off, but it needs some American imagination and leadership and statesmanship, but they can do it. I think the parties would join in. I think the Palestinians would come in. We should be coming in. It is true that also on the Israeli side we have hardliners, but I think the majority are pragmatists, so they would join in. And then sometimes it is us, the regionals, who take the lead. At the end of the day, the peace with Egypt was accomplished by us. The peace with Jordan was accomplished by us. And also progress with the Palestinians could be accomplished by us.
Uzi Arad, Ashraf Al-Ajrami. On that note, maybe a change in the status quo in general, not on the Temple Mount. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.